As we get started today, we're going to talk about pickleball. Upward Sports has just launched pickleball 4-1. No, it was not an April Fool's joke. I had many people reach out and ask me that, and I said, no, it's not. Um, and so we're excited today. We had a webinar a week or two ago where we introduced you to Upward Pickleball. I had the same guys on here, Joel and Chad, who you guys will meet in just a minute. And we walked through the league format of the practice and play format and the traditional league. And so I will, hopefully you guys can go back and reference that webinar. But from that webinar, there was a lot of questions that we needed to help you guys answer. And so I brought our experts back so we can ask questions and help you. Also talk about a lot of these questions are asking, how do I get my free pickleball net sets, which you do get up to 2 free net sets when you create your league. And so I'm going to talk to you about those and let you know how many more we have in stock. We have 200, but we're down to a few, not a few, but we've given out a few. And so I want to talk to you about that. So to make today easy, I am going to answer some questions that you submitted when you registered, so you can start thinking through things. And then I want you to put your questions in the chat box or the Q&A box, either one. I will bounce back and forth. We're going to go for about 30 to 40 minutes here and answer as many questions as we can. If we do not get to your question, we will reach out to you personally and answer those. Also, Chad and Joel will be available if you have questions specifically around the structure or how they ran it at their church. So they'll be glad to help. So enter your questions in the chat box or the Q&A. You guys ready to get started, Joel and Chad?
We're ready.
We're ready.
All right. Let me introduce you to them if you weren't on the last call. Joel Flaugher is a league director at Turning Point Church in Ohio. He is also over our market research department. So when you send questions or you need something changed or updated or even great feedback, Joel's the one that gets to see that. And so he's over that department. So we're glad you're here, Joel.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And Chad is with Creekside Christian Church in Florida. He has been piloting pickleball. He really an expert at it almost, I feel like. And so I'm glad you're here, Chad. Thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be here and help anybody I can.
All right. I already see our first question, and I'm going to answer that one. It says, can we get a recording link for the previous webinar, Rolling Out Upward Pickleball? Absolutely, Jeffrey. I'll send you that with this replay. The email will come out tomorrow morning, so I'll send you both. Great point. All right. I'm going to talk first about the two formats. That is one question I saw originally. Joel, can you speak to that? There is a traditional format for a league at pickleball, and there is the practice and play. Before we start asking questions, can you explain the difference in those two?
Yes. So the traditional format, we call it traditional for those who have done an upward program before. The traditional format is where you have a practice during the week for about an hour, hour and a half, and then you have games on a separate day. And so usually those are done on a Saturday. The practice and play format, what makes it different is that it's an event that occurs on one day. Mm-hmm. And so practice and play, let's say you pick Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or all three of those as your days. Over the course of those daily events, so on a Monday, you start off by spending most of your time practicing skills and drills. And as the season progresses, you turn those into more time for games. And so everything occurs on one day versus everything occurring over multiple days. Advantage is parents only need to come out once versus twice. The advantage of coming out twice is that's more times where you're engaging with them and more opportunities for ministry. Both work great, and both you can use in either one of your situations.
That's great. So if you're on here, when you create your league inside of our systems, which you'll hear us reference, it's called My Upward. When you create your league, you'll get to choose between traditional league or practice and play. And then all of your resources will populate for you based on the structure in which you choose. Another question that I know people are going to ask, Chad, is which format did you use? And can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so we started out with traditional, and we did that, and we had two different divisions. and we did those on skill originally, and so we still had our evaluation day based on some skills, and then we had two different divisions. One practiced at one time, and then the other one practiced another time on Tuesdays, and then all the games were on Saturday, starting with one group and then another group. And now we've tried to pilot a second time. We're in the midst of that now. We're on week four right now. And this week 4 is practice and play. And we did a little longer session. We did about 2 hours. And so we can have a very distinct practice time and a very distinct game time in there. And we're learning on both ends that there's good things in both formats. And so it's really up to the church and the venue what they think is going to work best for their people. But they both work.
I love it. So if you're on here, I want to gauge just a response as we're going through this. What sparks your interest, traditional versus practice and play? Which one are you interested in? That'll help us gauge our questions as well. So put that in the chat. Tell us what you're interested in, traditional or practice and play. So go ahead and enter those in there. While they are putting their feedback in here, guys, I am going to just throw out some questions. You answer them. These are questions that was submitted when everyone registered, so hopefully it sparks other questions that can come. How big of a court do we need to play pickleball?
Yeah, so Chad, I've seen his gym. I've been to his church. Great setup, and so it's going to depend on the gym size that you have. So my gym at my church is an elementary school size gym, and so we're able to put 2 courts running cross court on the basketball court, and you need about 10 to 14 feet between the courts. One of the things that you might think is, wow, pickleballs are going to be going left and right a whole bunch and disrupting play. And that might be the case in week 1, but after you start to teach serving, really the ball is going in one direction for the most part. So that's going to depend on, if you're doing it inside, how big your gym is. Court, usually you need about a 10-foot perimeter around it, and it's roughly 20 by 40 in its size. And then Chad's got a different setup where they are.
Yeah, we were able to do 3. So I mean, it's the same general thing that you're talking about, Joel. We just were able to fit 3. We don't run quite 10 feet to the wall sides. I think it's like 9, but we have 10 in between them otherwise, and we could get 3 wide. So, but same thing, and I agree with you. You get an errant ball, but it's less common. We have adults that play, and they know how to play very well on some of these events that we have, and you still get an errant ball, but it's not common. It's not super common.
That's great. And we also have a format that will help you, or a layout that can help with that as well. All right. Another great question here is, can we start small? And is there a certain amount of kids that we are required to have sign up?
I would say, just from trying it, the bare minimum to have a game is 4, because you need 2 pairs to play pickleball. But I think 10 is probably a good number if you're going to do a league, just because you're going to have absences and you may want to try to mix up the players, and you may have different skill sets among them. That would be a rough guess. If you had less than that, you could still make it work. But I think that's probably like a really bottom number that I would want to have. But you can have as many as you want after that, based on how many practices and games that you're willing to host. I think one of the questions that came in was, in the initial pilot, how many did we have? And we had a set number of 24 that we weren't going to go past. And so we had 24 players, and then we broke them up into 2 groups of 12. This time around, we're doing 30 with 2 groups of 15. And I may go more than that on the next round and do 16 or even 18 per group.
That's great. Joel,
Yeah, I
anything
think
you want
that's
to
a
add to
nice
that?
thing with pickleballs, that you can have a smaller number and start. That was part of on my research side of my role with Upward. Is one of the things that we discovered is churches may be thinking, I can do a few kids, but I don't know that I can get a bunch of kids. And so pickleball is a really good sport for a church that maybe has some uncertainty, but you can get started, like Chad said, 10 players, 8 players, you'll be ready to go.
So that answers the next question on here is, how do I make this work for a small church? This is it. This is the thing. For a big church, for a smaller church, you can have, as Chad just mentioned, his preference is a minimum of 10 kids, but it can go smaller than that. One thing I did want to answer, Chad, you mentioned you're not going over a specific amount, 24 kids. So you may be on here wondering, well, how do I stop that? Like if people keep registering. So in the Upward system, when you create your league, you can set your participant amount. And after that, it will add kids to a list, a wait list that you can reach out to. So that is a great way to manage that. Okay. What about this one, guys? What will this typically cost the church, and how much did your pilot programs charge others?
Yeah, that's going to depend on the package that you put together. So you can select the shirts that they get, the equipment you want to provide. So that cost is going to be determined by the package that you select. And then I would say you probably want to be close to what your community charges. And so you're going to have to do a little research. And so for our pickleball program that we're running this spring, we're at $85, $80 to $85 for that. So you could charge, if your community is 100 or 120, I would not shy away from that because that kind of sets the expectation of this is going to be a quality experience and it's on par with what you're finding in other programs in our community.
I love
Yeah,
that.
the only insight I would add is I would agree, absolutely. Stay with what's your market. We have a much higher market where I'm at, and so we did a higher price point than that. The nice thing about it is there are costs. They're minimal with starting this compared to other sports, but there are costs that you'll want to consider with nets and floor tape and additional balls, and maybe you want to do loaner paddles for people, things like that. And so it does help to have a buffer to be able to pay for those things.
Yeah, and think about too the length of the program. So if you're going 12 weeks, you're probably going to charge different from what you do
Right.
if you do 7 weeks, which is what we did. Our first go around when we were experimenting with it.
That's great. A couple of these questions that I'm seeing on here, and somebody has sent me a couple of questions personally, is do you guys send people in to run all of this? And so if you're on here, we have several people that may not be familiar with Upward Sports. And so I want to take just a minute and explain who Upward Sports is. So if you're on here and this is the first interaction you've had, welcome. We're glad you're here. But Upward Sports exists to serve the local church, and our goal is to promote the discovery of Jesus through sports. And the way that we do that is we support people like Joel and Chad that are running sports ministry in their local community for the purpose of sharing the gospel. But we provide everything from, I say, start to finish. We don't send volunteers, though. That's something that Chad and Joel will get into that. That's a question they have. But that is something that you guys do on your own by creating relationships within your congregation, working with people in your community. But we provide everything from online registration to marketing support to you get to create your package. It is customizable to you. You can get a pickleball jersey that's really cool with your logo on it, right? Or you can order t-shirts, or you can order no apparel and set your fee that way. Then we provide you with all ministry resources so that each game, each practice has a devotion that is unique to the age group in which you are ministering to. And it should lead you all the way through weeks, however many weeks you're doing, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and it will provide all of those resources. We also have a very sophisticated drafting software that helps you communicate with your teams, put your teams in a structure so that you are first class, organized, and intentional. So as an overview, that's the very high level view of who Upward Sports is. And our goal is to be a ministry partner to you so that you can provide the best experience for your community. So hopefully that helped answer your question. I see a thumbs up that David gave me. So great. I'm glad that helped answer your questions. So let's talk about recruiting coaches. That's another question that we have here is how did you recruit your pickleball coaches? Chad spoke very great about that on our first Upward Pickleball webinar. Chad, explain how you recruited these coaches.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I feel the pressure with other sports too. So I know that this is a thing you want to figure out. The number one way I would say to find coaches for any sport, but pickleball is an easy one, is to have adult pickleball. So we ran adult pickleball for a year, almost a year and a half, before we did even a pre-upward kind of kids program of our own for pickleball. And each one of the times that we've done anything with pickleball for kids, it's been very easy to find coaches because I actively go out and spend time with the pickleball community. And that's the great thing about pickleball that I want to stress to everybody on the call is there are very few folks that can't play at some level. And so to be able to put an adult pickleball out there and then you yourself go out and play, or a couple of the people in the church community that like to lead these kind of things come out and play, they can. I mean, they really are able to jump in and be able to play even somewhat competitively at different levels. That's a great thing about it. So getting an adult community started makes getting the coaches the easiest they can be. We ran a 2 coach to 4 player ratio in our first one, and we're running 6 coaches for 15 players in this one. Super high coach to player ratio. It was no problem getting the coaches. I had the coach spots filled before I had the player spots filled.
Wow.
You just ask the adults. They love it. They love the sport.
Yeah, we're in a unique spot too because pickleball is seen as a new sport. And so you have some enthusiasm from adults. At my church, we don't have an adult pickleball program, but I do have adults that play. And so once we said, hey, we're going to do something for kids with pickleball, they said, oh, I'll do that because I play. And they're super enthusiastic about jumping in and helping. And I think one of the things that's unique too is you have adults who are in their 60s and even 70s that play, and they are able to come back and connect with our middle and high schoolers at our church. So you have 2 age groups that typically don't engage with each other that now are able to do that because you're bringing in a sport that attracts players that go into their 60s and 70s and probably even 80s, and are able to connect with that portion of the congregation at the church.
So that opens the next question of adults. Can adults be a part of Upward Pickleball?
Yes, I see that question there too. Is the question about have we thought about developing something for adults with pickleball? And Jennifer gave some background on Upward Sports, and we started off as an equipping organization to equip churches to serve families, serve kids through sports. And so that's where we are now. That doesn't mean that won't be developed in the future. And some of my work that I've been doing is research on adult sports. So if you'd like to talk about that, send me, put a note and message there. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. But we're not there right now. It doesn't mean we won't get there. So really good question though. With that, we have some running. We have a running program that Upward has developed and working on that is geared toward adults. And so maybe at some point that becomes a youth sport experience. But right now, not there yet. Doesn't mean we won't be. We'll see where it goes.
But there's still ways for your adults to get involved, just as
Oh,
Chad and Joel mentioned.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So bring them in, allow them to coach, do an open gym. I know Chad does that.
Yeah.
It's a great way to keep them involved, engaged. Ministry still takes place for sure there. Okay, let's talk about age groups. That's a question I see in here. Some of them asked, how did Chad structure his initial pilot in terms of number of participants and age range? So let's answer that one first, and then I'll ask another one about age.
Yeah, so the initial one we did a little different than this one. The initial one we did evaluations, like I said, because we had tried a kids version of pickleball prior to Upward taking on this endeavor. We learned very quickly, and I think Joel can affirm this, that your age groups that are super interested in it start probably around like 6 or 7, but it's not till about 10 years old that you can actually have a game. You could play some sort of modified, maybe not pickleball, but use the pickleball and play something fun with the kids that are like 7 to 10. But it's 10 is the sweet spot. Right around 10, they have the ability to actually hit the ball in the right area that they need to. They have the understanding and the attention span to be able to do the rules and say the scores and rotate the players correctly. And so we started our pilot program with traditional play from 10 to 15 years old. We've done this one the exact same way. We've done 10 to 15 years old for our age grouping, and that seems to be a good sweet spot. We could do high school, but where I'm at currently, we actually do have middle schools and high schools that are starting to offer it as a after-school activity. So there's some competition for us to do that.
Yeah, our first go around with pickleball, we went down to 8-year-old and third grade. And like Chad said, you discover very quickly that those 8, 9, some of the 10-year-olds just are not ready from the perspective of playing a game. And so that's where January of next year we'll have camp and clinic resources. And maybe that's a better option towards a shorter period of time with those younger kids. But really, for it to be an interesting experience for them, you want them to progress to be able to play a game. And you want to start at fifth grade. That's probably the minimum, that 10-year-old range, and then go up from there. For our league, we go through 10th grade and do it in a couple different sessions. But yeah, really 10-year-old, fifth grade and up, that's the way to go. And the advantage to that is that if you do other sports ministry with kids, sometimes you find that age kind of starts to drop off about fifth, sixth grade.
True.
This is a way to stay connected to middle and high schoolers moving forward. So see it as an opportunity to continue to extend that age range where you're staying engaged with those families.
I love that. Keeping those players engaged. So let's talk about the rules of the game. Maybe you're on here. There's several questions that came in, and you guys are like, I don't know anything about pickleball. What do I do? What do you provide me when it comes to training resources? And how do I even get started when it comes to learning the game? Anybody want to take a stab for somebody that's knows that this is a fun game, knows that it's relevant? We're going to use this to engage our middle school, high school age, but how do we get started when we don't know anything?
Make the call. Upward Sports is really good at getting you started down the process of starting something maybe that you haven't done before. And so we have people who direct sports ministries that are not sports people. So if you start with a call to us, we have a consultation. We'll walk you through the next steps, and then we give you the resources so that you can equip coaches, so that you can be confident in leading and directing. So there's a league director manual Jennifer mentioned. There's a document that shows you how to lay out a court. Like, we give you everything that you need, aside from the participants and the volunteers that are in your location, so that you can jump in and get going with the sport ministry.
Absolutely. And you can always watch YouTube too, just to learn a little bit of it, to understand, like what is the terminology? It's different terminology, right? Just to learn a little bit. Let's talk about now, like, how teams are structured. If you're just joining, I saw that Mark said he was a few minutes late. No worries at all. We're going to send a replay out as well. But you have the traditional, but you also have the practice and play. And so that's a question that I'm seeing coming through. People are sending a couple messages here to you. Is like, what does the structure look like? How do teams work versus traditional versus a practice and play? How many kids are on a team? And what does the play even look like? You want to take a stab at that? You want to start with the traditional first, Joel?
Yeah, I would say, so you have in mind other sports that you've seen on TV where you've got team A and B, the Pacers and the Celtics, and they're playing each other, and you have defined teams. And you can do that with pickleball too. The practice and play model kind of evolved out of the how you put teams together question. And so you can do teams, and Chad can probably speak to this, of 4 players with a couple coaches. They practice on their set night. And then on Saturday, those 4 players play against another team. And you can mix up how they, it's your 1 and 4 player playing against the other team's 1 and 4 player, or they just decide, hey, I'm going to put these 2 and these 2, and we'll see how the game goes. So you can do teams like that. In the practice and play format, it's more of a cooperative session, we'll call it. And so the 8, 12, 16 players that you have in your session rotate who they play each week. And we have some resources that describe how to set that gameplay up, because there are a few options in how to do that. And so we'll equip you with ways to set that up. but you can do teams, or you can do more of a cooperative play to where you're rotating through those teams and who you play each week.
Yeah, ours is a similar setup. So there are benefits to each. To your point, I'll start with practice and play. We're doing practice play now. Each of my two groups, I have a young group and an older group, they're one giant team. And so we do a fun tunnel, the parent tunnel. They come in and say high five, whatever, and I announce them. They picked a team name. Each one of them picked a team name, but they're all one team. I got them all the same color jerseys this time. And they do a popcorn round robin each week based on who's there. I don't want to start a controversy. I use AI and I just tell it who I have and tell it I want a popcorn round robin, and it tells me who plays who in each round, and we just use that. It makes it super easy. But that's the practice and play model. Now, for the traditional, what was really fun is we did teams, and we do teams of 4. And the reason we did teams of 4 was because when you're coaching for the practice night, you have multiple teams on one court. If they want to do different drills, that gets really awkward. So we just kept it one coach for 4 players. If I did traditional again, I'd probably go to 6 players. So there were some sub options because we were missing players at least 50% of the time. I think Joel's ratio was similar. But we did teams. Those ones we picked different color jerseys for. They all had their individual team names. There was a lot of team pride. It was a lot of fun. That would be, I think, a little harder on a practice and play night, the way it's formatted and how you don't know who's coming sometimes than the game days. But you could probably still pull it off if you were creative about it. So you could do either format, and they both have value to them. Some are easier to popcorn each other, where if you were trying to do mixed doubles or doubles, mixing up, you want to do a team versus a team, then you have to keep those kids together, those players together, which makes it a little more challenging to schedule.
Yeah, and I think that don't be afraid to experiment a little bit too. Like you can switch things up from season to season, or even within the season. If you're unsure which way you want to go, so take advantage of this being a new sport and being able to experiment a little bit with it.
Yeah. To your point, when we did traditional play, our original format was they would play 3 games on game day, but they would stay with their partners and play against the same other 2 people, and it was kind of like a best of 3, but they would still play all 3 games. And the feedback from that was from parents that if 2 people weren't meshing together really well and they kept losing, that was really defeating for the kids. Now, I could say that's still a coaching and life lesson to have with them, but if you wanted to avoid that situation, you want to be able to rotate players in, and so that's something to think about too.
I love that. So that brings to a question that Mike had here. So do you play other churches, or do you guys just play each other?
Yes.
I mean, yes, both.
Yeah, you could set it up to be where you're playing against other churches, or you could do it all kind of within one church and you're playing within those teams. So you could do either one with pickleball or with any sport. It's not necessarily against another church. It's playing with those players, playing
within your league.
Yeah, it becomes one big league that might be in different locations, and so you have an opportunity to play with other players, not necessarily that, hey, we're going down the road to beat First Presbyterian Church and claim the title for our city. I guess you could do that, but pickleball is heavily focused on the recreation side of it, being a cooperative sport, being a game where we're getting together and playing and learning and having fun. Not that you can't compete and have fun, because you can do that. We want to keep that in mind. But usually you're within one location. But feel free to partner. We'd love to hear about that.
That's great. So I have 3 other questions. I'm trying to honor time, so we're going to go about 10 more minutes. I have 3 different questions. One, I want to talk about evaluations. So Colin asked the question. So for a normal upward sports league, you do an evaluation that helps you put equal players, their skill levels. How did you guys manage evaluations?
Well, go ahead, Joel.
Well, so with our first program, we did not do evaluations, and so we knew the players going in, who they were. They had already played another sport with us, about 60% of them, and so we were able to place players in a couple different sessions based on those skill levels. And then really what you find is as you continue to play, you can adjust who is playing against each other. We did the practice and play format, and that's an advantage to that is there's a little more flexibility. So we just shifted players around on different courts so they played against players of similar skill. But we outlined an evaluation process that we have in the league director manual that you can use. I think, Chad, you guys did in your first session, did an evaluation. I was actually there one of the nights that you did those, did a great job with that.
Yeah, and that's true. So that first time we did evaluations, there's a couple skill sets that we have suggested, and I think ended up in the upward manual for that. Probably would make some minor tweaks to it going forward, just in the essence of we practice dinking, and we notice with our younger group, especially with beginners, dinking doesn't really happen. So I don't even know that I would evaluate that going forward. But the older group, I would. They do get to that place. And so our first one was skill, and we split them by skill. This time we did them by age groups, and so we didn't do an evaluation because it just was whatever age group you're in, that's the group you're going to play in. And then we did move some people. So we had some folks that were in the younger group that could clearly compete with people that were older, kids that were older. And so we asked, and the parents were good, we moved them up to the other group. And I think that format would also suffice. But if you were going to do evaluations, you can still set up evaluation stations and then evaluate them with your coaches and just work on things like serving and volleying and court position, see what they do. You could totally evaluate that way.
Yeah, especially as your league grows, you get to some places where you have 100 players in a basketball league, and you may grow pickleball program to that point. The evaluations become important because you might not know every player. Right. And so with that evaluation, then you're able to have a score that helps you get an idea of where everybody is. And really you're looking for that probably top 10% and bottom 10% and spreading them out or grouping them all together so that they're all playing together, or spreading them out if you're building teams so that there's a balance of talent between the teams.
That's great. And so if you're listening in, when you create your league, you'll have access to how to run a successful evaluation based on what format you choose. Last two questions, and then we're going to talk about these pickleball net sets. I've got a few messages coming in here. One question is the court. Do we have to use a basketball court? Can it be outside? Can I use a multi-purpose? One lady on here says, we do not even have a court, but we're interested in this. So thoughts on where this can take place?
Yeah, really, it's flexible. So I talked with people who have done pickleball at their church as we were developing this program, and I heard people that used carpeted multi-purpose rooms. They use tile gyms, hardwood floor, concrete, and then outside you might be on asphalt or you might be on a specific court. So really it's flexible. The key is everybody's playing on the same court, so you're not putting anybody at a disadvantage. And so you could use any of those surfaces and areas. The great thing with pickleball is you can have a smaller area, you can have a larger area and add more courts, and you could do things inside or outside. So there's a lot of flexibility with how that could set up. You could have a net, and these net sets that we give away, you can put one together in 10 minutes, set up a court, you could tape off lines and be ready to go.
So one question around that is how many courts can you put in one gym?
Yeah, Chad, I think you guys have three.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And that's typically what you're going to get with a standard size gym. I have an elementary size gym, so we did 2, but you really want to have at least 2. You're probably shooting for 2 to 3 courts that you can put in your gym. I talked to somebody, I'm a little envious. They had the ability to do 16 courts outside. Like, man, they must have a huge parking lot to be able to do that. So yeah, 3 is probably what you're going to get in your standard gym, if that's what you have at your church.
I'm envious of Larry that sent his questions in. He said he has 3 gyms and he is interested in running pickleball. I'm sort of envious of that. That's a
lot of gym space.
That's Larry. A lot of resources.
Yeah.
Run pickleball.
Run adult pickleball first.
Yeah, that's awesome. Katie asked, can we host off property?
Sure. Yeah, there are leagues that do that, and we have a document in the resources area, in the training resource area, that talks about how to rent or borrow facilities. For sure, you can do that. There's things you want to keep in mind that are outlined in that document, but yes, you could do that offsite.
Absolutely. And we have many partners, Katie, that they're landlocked. And so they don't have outdoor or indoor, and they use local schools or a neighboring church that is not using their gym, or even a Christian school down the street. So absolutely. And we would love to help you when you schedule a call. Our onboarding team will actually help you map out ideas like that.
And there's been some really interesting partnerships between townships and counties and
Absolutely.
cities and their city parks and the church. Like, that is two groups that are working together for the benefit of the community. And so don't be shy about going to those city or county park departments too, and working with them.
Okay, last question here before we get to the pickleball net sets is resources. A few people on here asked about swag because middle schoolers love swag and adults do, don't we? And they're asking, what type of swag do you provide to our players?
Yeah, so swag for players, you have jersey options, you have options for shorts, there are options for paddles, balls, pickleball net sets. There's also some other little things in there. There's magnets and bracelets and water bottles and backpacks and sling bags and all kinds of things that, as you build your player package, you decide which of those you'd like to include, both from an experience perspective and a cost perspective. So there's some variety there in what you can select for your players.
Love that. And so when you create your league, you'll have an estimator tool and you'll
Mhm.
be able to log in. And if you're like me, you want to add some things and then make another option. And so you'll be able to look at different options that work. One question that came in is, Chad, what did you choose or what would you choose in your package after 2 years of experience or 2 seasons?
So we loved the backpack and the jerseys and the option. We give an option for shorts. That's how we ran this last one. And then we actually call and get our backpacks sent early. And instead of giving them away as an end of season gift, we actually
Right.
give them up front so that the players have something to keep their stuff in to bring them. And so that seems to be a big hit. And that's what we really liked. Paddles as an option is great. But I think most people have access to other venues to buy paddles. So it's up to them. We gave out paddles last season and as part of their kit, and within week 3, 80 to 90% of our players had their own paddles that they went and bought. So we decided that that wasn't needed this time. Your mileage may vary, though.
Hmm. Oh, you're muted, Joel.
Great points on the paddles. That's where you see the kids who are interested are the ones that start and go and buy their own. So that's fun to see. Hey, they're investing in the sport and they've
That's
learned,
right.
and it's something that they like to do.
That's right. One question, and I think you guys answered it already, but I saw it come through on my end, personally, was do you have to choose, can you do both? As in, can you offer a traditional league for 5th and 6th graders? And can you do practice and play for 7th and 8th graders? And should we or should we not do that?
Yeah, you could do that. Should you or should you not? I'd say it's up to you. Never had anybody do that, so we can help through that and help learn with that. So I would say there's probably advantages doing all the same for everybody, just from a simplicity standpoint. But like, you can experiment and see what works for you.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the communication standpoint to parents, especially if you have parents that have multiple kids and they're in both
True.
versions, that would be a challenge. But if
Yeah.
you were really good at communication and you had people that could run it, I'd say go for it.
Yeah, that's right on with the parent communication.
That's a
Is you're
great
going to
point.
have parents with multiple kids going, "Whoa, wait a minute, which one
Are
was
we
that
doing
for?"
what?
Yeah, even if you're super detailed with it, people generally don't read email in very much detail, so that might get tough.
A great point. We're coming to the end of our time. So I hope that you, if you're on here or listening to it later on, I hope you've been encouraged and I hope we answered your questions. There's still questions that hopefully I've grouped them together and answered them. If I did not, feel free to respond to the email that I send to you tomorrow, and I'll help answer them. If I can't answer them, I will put you in touch with Chad and Joel, and they can help answer that. If you're excited about pickleball, give me a thumbs up. Say, yes, it's me. I'm excited. In the chat box, I definitely want to know who's excited about Upward Pickleball. I know we are. Let's talk about our net sets. That brings us to net sets. Joel mentioned that you can set them up in less than 10 minutes. So you can. I think it was like 7 and something that I set it up because I wanted to test it and see if he was accurate. And if I can do it, you could probably do it, guys, in 5 minutes. So we are offering up to 2 free pickleball net sets, and that comes with the net in a little travel bag. And it comes with paddles and it comes with balls. So it's a great way for you to get started, and you get up to 2. And the way that this happens is we want to make sure that, that we can help you the best way and support you with resources, not just the net set as well. So if you are a current Upward Church partner, you will log in to My Upward right now. Go ahead and go do it and create your pickleball league, traditional or practice and play. And that was a question. Let me stop right there. Colin asked that, Joel. When it drops down, do they choose practice and play or traditional? How do they choose that?
Yeah, no, you go in and create a league. If you're familiar with My Upward, go and create a league, select pickleball as the option, and the resources guide you through.
Okay.
You would say, oh, in my mind, I want to do practice and play. So as you read through the resources, there's guidance there. There's also a PDF that helps you with your setup of your league.
That's perfect. Hopefully that helped answer your questions, Colin. So if you're a current Upward partner, log into My Upward, go ahead and create your league. I will contact you personally and ask you, do you want 1 net set, 2 net sets? And then I will ship those out to you at no charge. And all I ask you to do is tag me in your pictures and send me God moments. I want to hear what's going on in your community through pickleball. If you are not an Upward Church partner, we want to partner with you. So we want you to go to upward.org/pickleball. I just sent that to you, upward.org/pickleball, and click schedule a call. When you schedule a call, it'll indicate to us that you're interested in pickleball. And then someone in our onboarding team, they will listen to what you're interested in. They'll even help you create your pickleball timeline. And then they will help you get ready to roll. And when you create your league, we will send you, same way, we'll send you 2 free pickleball net sets. Now, the only thing is we have 200 that are in stock, and we've given out, I think, about 20 net sets as of yesterday morning. I have more people creating leagues as it comes down. So make sure we have 200, and so we want to get those to you. So that's how you get your pickleball net set. So schedule your call. If you're on here and you're considering sports for the first time, we'd love for pickleball to be your first sport into the community. Any last questions, Joel and Chad, before we close?
I think we should mention a timeline too. So if you're on the call today and you say, man, this is great, idea. I want to do that. I would keep in mind that you need some time for advertising and promoting your league. And so you want to look at July 1st or after, and that lines up with our resources that we provide. So you can go in and create a program now with a first practice date after July 1st. And really, that's going to give you the time you need to advertise too. So you can do a summer program, you could do a fall program when you create your league.
And when you go to upward.org/pickleball, there is a timeline out there. So you can print that off and you can actually write in your dates. That will help you create that. And then we want to help you with marketing. So once you create your league, you will have access to marketing materials to promote that as well. Any last thoughts, Joel and Chad?
I think we covered it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. I'm going to close this in prayer if you guys are okay with that. And then if you have questions, let me know. Dear Lord, we thank you for today, and we thank you for the fun sport of pickleball. Lord, I just pray for each middle school, high schooler that will be involved in this sport. Lord, I just pray for the leaders that are on here that are considering using this as an avenue to reach our community. And for Chad and Joel, Lord, as they have led the way in this pilot initiative, thank you for their thoughts and their feedback and their details to make this successful for other leaders that are coming behind them. We love you, Lord. Amen. Thank you, guys. Have a good afternoon.
See you.
Bye-bye.